Hello, everyone, and welcome to Movie Roundtable Discussion Podcast. My name is Ian Savain, and today I am joined here with
Benjamin George.
And Nathaniel George, whose mouth is full.
Excuse him as he takes a drink of water. And now he is coughing.
I was shoving food in my mouth as Ian was beginning the recording, and I was not prepared.
Excellent.
So yes, I am Nathaniel George.
And we are here to discuss, possibly,
The greatest Christmas movie of all time.
yes, The Snowman, starring Mikhail Fassbender. And what's her face that was in Antichrist and other Lars von Trier movies. I don't know her name. That's the only other actress. Yeah, that's the only actress only actor besides Mikhail Fassbender that I recognize.
We also had J.K. Simmons and Val Kilmer.
I don't really know either of them.
Okay.
Charlotte Gainsbourg was the girl from
say that
Antichrist.
Val Kilmer. There was something really off about Val Kilmer in that movie, and I couldn't figure out what it was.
He
looked old. First of all, yeah, this is a really recent movie, so he looked old. Second off, it looked like he had just had some kind of dental surgery done. So because his lower jaw was swollen or something. So I don't know. It was just weird. He looked funny, and then also it looked like somebody had dubbed over his dialogue. For no, I couldn't figure out what it was. Just something about him seemed very off.
It could be that we did watch the movie with subtitles.
No, that's not what it was, because it sounded different when he spoke than it did when anyone else spoke.
So this is a crime thriller, which I am a big fan of.
Oh yeah, crime thrillers, I didn't realize, but it's probably one of my favorite genres, because when I went to the movie mart to pick up a bunch of movies since they were selling out, 90% of the movies I got were crime thrillers, and I didn't even do that intentionally. I was just ooh, this looks good, and they just all happened to be crime thrillers.
Yeah, it's definitely a genre that I very much enjoyed, that I don't watch a whole lot of.
Yeah.
So I need to get into it, the genre, a lot more.
I think the main reason why, at least for me, is because there are not a lot of really good crime thrillers out there.
Right. I agree with that. Because, every time I watch a crime thriller, I can just think of how it could all go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Or I think of, the typical 8-season run of TV shows that are, crime dramas that are mostly stereotypical and kind of bad.
Yeah, they're all the same.
Yeah.
That's the thing about crime thrillers, is that they tend to be really predictable, because they're oh, that's an easy kind of movie to make, let's just all make these movies, and then they just make the same movie over and over again. But when you find a good one, it's usually really, really good.
I'd have to say the last one that I watched that was really good, besides the movie we're talking about now, is Seven, with Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman.
Seven is so good.
Yeah.
I have not seen Seven.
What?
I have not seen Seven.
You should.
I know it's in my watch list, but I haven't seen it yet. I don't have access to it.
That's fine. We can find access to it.
Illegally, if we must.
Yes.
No.
If
We do not condone pirating.
He doesn't.
But if you must do it, wear an eye patch.
Always wear an eye patch.
Always wear an eye patch. It's essential. I mean, if you're totally in the mood for like cutting off your own leg and going through that process, do that.
That's not what I meant, but sure.
That's totally what you meant. I read minds, Nathaniel. You can't hide anything from me. Anyway, so back to the Snowman. This was something that really stuck out to me, like how the intro, and everything from the intro to after the opening titles really got you interested in it. It was like the very beginning of the movie, like I guess you could say the flashback or whatever, was relevant, but you didn't know how relevant it would be because it didn't really show up until near the end.
And honestly, it made me think, are we giving spoilers in this? Is this like a spoiler?
Yes, spoiler.
Okay.
Spoil the whole thing.
So, spoilers.
It will be in the title.
The whole time I was watching, like, so when you see like the first intro, that's like the flashback of the guy as a kid. I assumed that the kid was Michael Fassbender's character.
I did too.
Because because it shows this kid, and so you're like, okay, this is the main character, and then it shows Michael Fassbender, and you're like, okay, this is the main character. So you think they're the same person, and then I'm just like waiting, like I'm going through the whole movie, waiting and like trying to figure out when Michael Fassbender's, like, I don't know, when they're gonna like tie in Michael Fassbender's childhood with what's happening now.
Yeah.
And then you get to the end and it's like, oh, that kid was the serial killer.
Yeah, which was still very well done, but
Yeah.
throughout the movie it kind of gave the impression that the reason Harry Hole
Yeah.
was going after the serial killer was because of the victims,
Yeah.
how he related to the victims.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I think was so great about the movie, is that they like, just, without giving you enough information to make you think, you know, one way, when reality it's just all completely flipped of what you were thinking
Yeah.
the whole time.
So, I like that.
I thought it was clever.
Yeah. And I just liked how that opening, well, not really opening shot, but the opening shot after the intro of Michael Fassbender and that zoom out shot, and then just the shots of like the statues with the opening titles was very well done.
Yeah. Honestly, cinematography was one of the strongest things of the movie, in
Yeah.
my opinion.
That's a strange thing. Like, you always think like cinematography is mostly done mediocre style
Yeah.
wise, but with a crime thriller on this level, it almost has to be unique.
Yeah.
Because I almost feel like the cinematography helps a lot with how, like, it helps with like the style of the film, because I can see the cinematography, if it was like passable in that like mediocre sense, like it wouldn't have given much of an impact on the story of it being like a not typical crime thriller, and it being more special than that. You know, there's more to it. And the fact that the entire movie was done during winter, which I think snow is just very cinematic and beautiful, and it definitely fit in this movie, obviously, because it's called The Snowman.
Yeah. And being in Poland, right?
Sweden.
No way.
Norway.
Oslo's
Yeah, Norway.
Norwegian.
Nope. It's actually in Greenland. Oh wait, no, it was Iceland. Maybe it was any Scandinavian country, because they're all the same.
It's Norway. Oslo is the capital
I know,
of
it was
Norway.
definitely Norway. But we were just like, oh no, it was this one. But
I
no,
got
it was
you
this one.
confused me. You said Poland, and I was like, what?
I-
Man, what movie did
I
you
don't know.
watch?
Then me and
They
you
said
were
Oslo,
Sweden.
like,
I
Me
swear
and you said
at some-
Sweden at the exact
I
same
swear
I don't
at
know
some
why we
point-
did
I don't
that.
know either.
I swear at some point there was like something like Polish something. So that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It was Norway.
It's definitely Norway. I don't know why I was thinking Poland.
I don't know why I was thinking Sweden.
Does Michael Fassbender have Polish blood in him? Did he ever state something like that? Because that's a possibility.
It may have been. I think he was in Poland in X-Men Apocalypse when he was.
That's right.
Magneto. That was in Poland. I'm pretty sure.
Oh,
Your mind
Apocalypse,
drifts to
yes.
stuff like that when it's like the same actor, you know. Yeah, let's talk about Michael Fassbender's character.
He was a character.
Yeah, Harry Hole.
What a name.
I know. 2 HH.
Alliteration.
He did very well with it because think about this.
He did so good. He's good actoring.
Yeah,
Always.
like
He is all good actoring.
let's continue.
I am.
No, you're not. You're just
talking.
you're saying the same
I'm
thing.
saying
I'm trying
the
to.
movie.
I'm gonna say something that's like in a
movie
good
good.
point.
The movie good.
I'm gonna make a good
Michael
point, and you're like
Fassbender,
you're like a machine over here, like
It's
Movie, good.
movie.
Michael Fassbender.
The
Good.
music score was good.
We'll talk about that later. But Michael
Snow
Fassbender's
was
character, the detective, alcohol problem, kind of his outline, the idea for his character was very basic.
Mm-hmm.
But since Michael Fassbender is Michael Fassbender, he did it so well. Like he made it unique. Like yeah, it was a basic character, but the basic character was put into the right movie, the right setting, because it was a unique kind of crime thriller. So, and of course you have a great actor doing it, so it pulled it off really well. And you didn't get the sense of like, oh, this has been done before, even though it kind of has, you know. And I really like that.
I mean, a lot of that helps. Also comes from the writing, and I think the writing was very well done for this movie. The dialogue was very well done.
The snow was very well done. The man was very well done. The action was very well done.
What action?
There was action at the end.
Yeah.
The serial killer was very well done.
Yeah. Let's talk about.
The movie was very well done.
Yes, good, we get it.
The casting was very
You said
well
something.
done.
The dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think people realize. I kind of feel. I'm sure people realize it, but I kind of feel like this is something that's overlooked with crime thriller, is the dialogue, how important it is, and how detailed it has to be because of how. Because at the end, near the end of the movie, he realized off the recording of a dialogue that is one word in a sentence.
Yeah,
He
changes
realized
everything.
it,
One word changes everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what detectives do for a living. They dissect literally everything. So everything in your movie has to be not necessarily perfect, but has to be really, really good in order to make a good crime thriller. Because if the audience is a better detective than the detective in the story, then it just kind of ruins the movie.
Yeah. The dialogue needed to be well thought out, and it definitely was.
Yeah, I do like the fact that you could while watching through the movie, you could kind of put pieces together and kind of see where it was going, but the whole time you're still you don't figure it out right from the beginning. It's not super easy and cliche and predictable. You're just slowly putting things together and
As they're putting things together.
Yeah, and
Which I really like it when movies do that. I don't like it when the movie tells you who the villain is or the serial killer is before the detective figures it out.
yeah.
Because then you're just like, oh my gosh, how can you be so stupid? He's right there in front of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also because it's it was putting together a puzzle. Well, obviously, that's what it's like being a detective. But usually in these kind of movies, you'll get a new piece, and then you're like, okay, now I'm starting to see more of a big picture. And every time they find a new some new information, the picture gets bigger. This one, every time you find new information, you're like, okay, so that's some new information. I have no idea where it fits. It's probably important, but you don't see how everything fits together until you get one last piece towards the end, and then everything just makes sense all of a sudden. And I feel like that's how things are really in like real investigations. Like pieces don't just fall together like that. They're scattered everywhere, and you don't know what goes where, and then one piece can just show everything.
Yeah, and the fact that the killer made each kill different, because like there was only one time that he put a severed head on the Snowman.
Like I guess it was definitely like a serial killer, because he was attacking and killing all this. Like everyone had a similar thing. Like it was always a woman who had a family or who had a kid and had been with multiple men, and the kid didn't know who his father was. So that was like the constant thing in all of it. And he always left a snowman at the crime scene. But yeah, each kill was a little different. That was cool, because usually, like, you know, they'll just, every kill is exactly the same for all the same people.
Yeah. I really like the weapon that he used to.
Yeah, that was cool.
That surprised me. That was something that like I wasn't expecting. I was expecting just a typical like hacksaw or something,
Yeah.
but when he did that and cut the one girl's finger off, it was like, oh, that's interesting.
His utensil was much more practical than what you usually see in movies like this.
I feel like as I was watching it, after when you first see him like opening up his book and use the thing that had all his utensils in it, and he started putting them together, and then he cut the girl's head off with it, I didn't figure out right away, but I should have. I guess not really should have, but when they started investigating that one doctor, I was like, it would make sense that it would be a doctor, because I just get like a doctor vibe from his utensils. And then in the end, it did turn out to be a doctor, but not the doctor that they were investigating.
Yeah.
And there were only 2 doctors in the movie, so I should have figured it out at that point, but I didn't.
Yeah. In the movie 7, there was a lot of talking about crimes and putting the pieces together. And in this movie, even though the dialogue was very detailed and important and very well done, it didn't rely on dialogue as the core of the investigation.
Yeah.
There's a lot of watching and investigating yourself as the viewer.
Yeah.
And that's something I really enjoyed.
A lot of visual storytelling, not just telling having the characters tell the audience what they've learned.
Honestly, there wasn't a whole lot of dialogue in the movie. It was mostly just visual.
Yeah. And when if you really think about it, because this was easier to notice because we watched it with subtitles. Every sentence, every line was very short. There wasn't a really long dialogue.
Right.
I think the only really long dialogue, and it was hardly even a paragraph, was at like the parties that the one guy had about the World Cup thing.
Yeah.
But that was it.
Yeah, because he was like giving a speech about the World Cup and the hockey games and everything.
Yeah.
So it would make sense why those were long, because it was a speech. But like none of the main characters really had like long conversations with each other.
Yeah.
Like even when when you find out who the serial killer is and he's conversing with the detective Harry Hole, those are even really short. Just their like conversation.
Yeah. And this is something that a lot of crime shows do, which I hate, honestly, is at the end, they're like, here's what happened, and they proceed to tell the audience what happened. I hate that. It's just like too much. It's like, it's almost like you just think we're dumb, and you know.
Yeah, once the detective figures it out, they always have to have the detective sit down and explain to his partner exactly how he figured it out. Which I think the reason why a lot of things do that is because, like, in the original Sherlock Holmes stories, that's what Arthur Conan Doyle did, is because, you're reading a book and it's harder to pick up on certain things, and also he would have Sherlock Holmes go figure things out, and you wouldn't read that part. So, like, Sherlock Holmes has to explain to Watson what happened, so that way the reader knows, because there's no visual storytelling.
And also the perspective of those books is from Watson's perspective. Yeah. So the only way for him to get that information of Sherlock figuring it out is by Sherlock telling Watson.
So, like, for something like that works. But then, all these mystery crime dramas feel like they have to follow suit because Sherlock Holmes is the greatest detective of all time, so you gotta copy that. But no. In a movie, you have visual storytelling, so you can explain things without having to just straight up tell you everything.
Yeah. There was in a scene when Mikhail Fassbender was like on the phone with the police department, being like, blah 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 blah. I'm gonna monologue about this, even though we literally just put all the pieces together visually and stuff. Like, how that's almost like disrespectful to the audience. You go through this awesome visual storytelling. It's all about show, don't tell, which is an awesome rule. And then at the end, you get a 5-minute scene of a monologue of them just explaining everything that just happened throughout the movie.
Yeah.
It's just like, that really?
They didn't show throughout the movie because they were saving it till the very end when they had that monologue.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm glad that this movie did not do that. Because, I still like some crime shows, that do that. Mm-hmm. But, I don't watch them often. I can't, binge watch them.
If you're looking for a really good crime drama TV show that is very similar to The Snowman, I would highly recommend Broadchurch. It is really good, and it follows that type of format of storytelling.
Yes, visual show.
I think they do. No, they don't have. No, they don't. They don't have at the end of the seasons of the show, because it's not each episode they figure out a murder. They're trying to figure out a murder throughout the entire season. So at the end of the season, they don't have them sit down telling how they figured it out. They show it to you, and then it shows a flashback of the moment of the crime.
Yeah. So yeah. I still have not watched that yet. I need to.
Yes, it's very good. And Ben hasn't seen the last 2 seasons.
Yeah, I forget there's seasons.
Has it completed already?
As far as I know, it has. There are only 3 seasons.
Okay. But back to the Snowman. The score was well done as well. Which is also something that is important. And I liked how it didn't really stand out as a completely different from any other movie in the genre kind of soundtrack, but it still stood out because it was. Right. It didn't feel like it followed the same kind of format.
Yeah, it didn't sound the same soundtrack you hear. It didn't sound like basic stock soundtrack that you get in a lot of basic crime movies. It was a little different, but it wasn't it didn't distract you from the movie like some soundtracks tend to do.
Yeah, and it was one that, and I think they blended it really well because there were parts that I was expecting suspense music, but then there was just like something came up, and then
There
there
was-
was like one little like 2 second of music, and then it was just gone.
That reminds me of this moment in the movie. This woman's sitting in her bed reading a book, and a snowball hits the window. There was no music at all in that part, but I noticed Ian jumped.
And that was excellent because that's how a jump scare should be.
Mm-hmm.
It was a perfect
It was
jump.
so good.
And it's not even
Like
a horror
after,
movie.
yeah, it's like after I jumped, I was just like, wow. Like I was, when does this movie came out? It was like
2017.
Yeah, 2017 movie, and it actually had a proper jump scare.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not even a horror film. That's surprised me so much. It was awesome.
Editing is important.
The editing of this movie sucked. No, it was good. It was good. I liked it.
Everything about this movie sucked.
Oh yeah,
Even Michael Fassbender's performance.
I know. He is the worst actor of all time.
He really is.
Why did we watch this movie?
I don't know. Sarcasm. Wink, wink.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah, I was a little confused with J.K. Simmons' character,
Yeah,
because I really thought that was like,
it like didn't go anywhere.
well, I mean it did, but it was just confusing timeline wise.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because he
Mhm.
killed himself. The shotgun blast that ended up being recreated in.
J.K. Simmons didn't kill himself. Val Kilmer is the one.
Oh. I don't know the actors.
Oh.
Okay, Val Kilmer. Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, that timeline was
That was confusing.
confusing.
Because they didn't show any indication that it was flashbacks. And then when you
They
know
did
that
the
he...
first time. The first time they showed his character, it said like
7 years earlier or something.
Yeah.
It
something
did?
like
I
that.
never noticed
Yep.
that.
the very first time, and so that's what clued me in that every time you saw him, that it was a flashback. So
Okay.
so yeah, I guess if you missed that the first time, then
Yeah.
definitely would. I watched
'Cause
the
it
whole
only
movie
just
would
showed
be
it once.
entirely different
Yeah.
without knowing.
Yeah,
that.
because that was something that really confused me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I can see. How
And I
that
did
would be
not
super
miss
confusing.
that. So yeah, you saw 7 years earlier.
Yeah.
I did not. Did you see it?
Yeah, I saw it.
Jeez. I should have said something during the movie, like, what's going on? I'm so confused. And then you guys probably would have said it, and I was like, oh, okay. But I didn't realize that until up to the moment that he died.
Right.
Well, I knew it when it was like that one when he was drunk and he went outside the window. And then it cut to the part of him being interviewed by Michael Fassbender's character, Harry. And then I was like, oh, those are flashbacks.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then after that scene, it was the scene that he, quote unquote, killed himself.
Right.
I really like that the CGI in that scene was bad,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really bad.
but I mean,
It didn't even look like the picture, like the photograph of that, like, of the crime scene of his
Yeah.
dead body. The CGI didn't even look like the photograph.
yeah. But I mean, this is a crime thriller, so you can't expect much from CGI.
Probably wasn't super high budget.
But I liked
Yeah.
how,
It didn't feel like a high budget film.
No.
yeah, it definitely wasn't. I liked how
The budget was.
Harry Hole had the picture and he was like, "What's up with the coffee beans on the ground?" And then during the flashback, you see how that happens because it's this mouth of the snowball. Well, it is a snowball. The
Yeah.
snowman's head.
See, that was the other thing that was like weird to me because like I said at the beginning of the movie, you see this kid who's in that early flashback. The kid builds the snowman at the beginning, and you think this kid's the main character, so you assume the kid grows up to be Michael Fassbender. I was wondering the whole movie why he wasn't picking up more on the whole snowman thing and all this stuff that was happening, because I was like, you did this as a kid.
Yeah.
You should know some of this. I was like confused as to why I was like, is he just not wanting to believe that this is happening and that something from his childhood is coming back to him or something like that? Or is he just not showing this information in any way at all? And then I realized it's not him.
Yeah.
And it all makes sense.
See, something I was thinking was, okay, a character that maybe like his childhood friend or something is the killer, and they built Snowman together.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. But then I'm glad that it didn't go down that path because it made much more sense. And I really liked a little detail that was kind of focused on briefly. It was a close up, but when you put the snowman up for the other girl that was had her finger chopped off.
Catherine or whatever her name was.
Yeah. It had the regular snowman facing the street, and then the one that his little signature
snowman
was facing her house.
It looked like a normal 3-ball snowman, and then on the back side of it, underneath the top, the head part of the other one was,
Yeah, because he only had 2 snowballs.
Because all of his snowmen were built with 2 snowballs, but then she saw one that was built with 3, and so she ignored it. But then it was on the back side of it. It was the signature snowman.
That was a nice
Did you
detail.
notice that?
No, I have no idea what you're talking about. I think I zoned out during the beginning of this conversation. Which part of the movie is this?
This was when what's her name? Katrine, the other detective with Harry Hall, when she got the gun out of her oven and walked out to go to the place and try to kill the guy.
She was going to go to the party or whatever to talk to J.K. Simmons' character. And
that's J.K. Simmons.
Yeah, J.K. Simmons.
Yeah.
I think I know why I didn't see that. There was an actor in the movie that I recognized but couldn't figure out where I recognized him from. So I went on my phone trying to figure out who it was, and I missed bits and pieces. And I think that was one of the scenes that I missed.
Stop doing that.
Yeah. Anyway, the budget of this film was $35 million. So
it's pretty low.
Yeah, and I guess technically it flopped because the gross in the U.S. That's U.S. not worldwide. But anyway, the U.S. gross was $6 million.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That's like nothing.
Also, what's really cool about this movie is it was all filmed on location. They actually filmed in Bergen, Norway, and Oslo, Norway, and a name of a place in Norway that I do not know how to pronounce.
Let me see if I got it.
Rjukan. That's
Lucan? I don't know.
That's the best. That's the only way I could think of
that. I have more respect for this film now, knowing that it was all filmed on location, low budget.
That makes me even more anxious about that bridge they were driving on.
Yeah, there was okay, so in the movie there's this. What were they driving to? I can't remember either.
Oh, it was when.
No, they were going to the twins' house.
Yeah, because they got this call that it was.
Yeah, on the drive there, Harry Hall and the Katrine was driving on this really one-lane bridge, and it gave Nathaniel anxiety. It gave me anxiety too because it was crazy.
It was covered in snow and it was across 2 mountain peaks. So there was miles and miles of a drop. And I was just imagining driving that in the winter and sliding on ice or on snow and going right over the edge.
Which the guards on the side were real tall, so it probably was sliding off the edge.
Yeah, but
But it looked like a bridge that would be in like South America on a hiking trail.
Yeah, kind of
Like that's what it looked like.
like a swaying bridge because it didn't have any like supports from the bottom supporting. All the supports were attached to the mountain peaks.
Yeah,
there was
because-
no like because
it
it's
was
just
so far.
it
was such a-
drop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess that was a real bridge.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
The other bridge that he
I
rode
couldn't
on
do
near
it.
the end of the film was fine though. That was like
yeah.
it had
That was a cool
support
bridge.
beams.
That was a cool bridge. I want to drive on that bridge.
You want to drive on the
Yes.
anxiety one?
I'll drive on that bridge.
I'll drive up to it and
I'll go with
look
you.
at it, but I will not
I'll walk
drive
it.
on it. Well, I'd drive it as long as it wasn't covered in snow.
No, only if it's 20 feet of snow will I drive across it.
I'd ice skate on it. No, I probably wouldn't. Number one, that would be very dangerous. Number two, I don't know how to ice skate. So I
Which
probably
make it
would
even
die.
more dangerous.
Yeah, so that would be like suicide right there. That's like a willing suicide. Well, obviously, suicide's willing anyway.
I think that I only really had two problems with the movie. The first problem was the kid who played young Matthias. Or whatever. Yeah, Matthias.
Yeah, Matthias.
The serial killer at the very beginning of the movie was awful.
I totally agree.
Ew.
Totally agree.
When his mom was like drowned in the car and on the lake, I felt like that should have been like a really emotional scene, but that kid did not help.
She's like, Mom, get out, Mom. No.
Mom.
No. That's what it was like.
Yeah,
I almost reenacted that scene perfectly.
pretty much.
Yeah,
No.
that was definitely a bad thing.
Yeah.
But I think the other child actor, well,
Yeah.
sort of teenage actor who played Oleg, he was good.
And
I liked him.
The little girl of the first victim. The little her child. The first victim's child.
Yeah.
I think she did a good job.
Yeah.
But that
That
one
was
kid-
something. That little girl, I think she was probably the best child actor in the whole thing,
Mhm.
because that young children, they don't really just like cry
Yeah.
when they
They
experience
don't
something like that.
understand.
They just kind of like shut down
Yeah, 'cause they don't
almost.
fully understand what's happening. They're like, they don't understand the concept of death, and so they're like broken.
Yeah.
They don't.
Or kidnapping. They just
Yeah.
they just know that their mom seemed fine
And then
one
it's
day
gone.
and then was gone when she woke up and has no idea why.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that was. She did a really good job.
And my other problem that I had with it was at the very end of the film when Matthias is having that whole like confrontation with Detective Hull. He falls in a hole in the ice,
Yeah.
and like it was just there was just one spot in this solid lake of ice that happened to be open, and I'm assuming it was like a fishing hole, but it just happened to be right where they were, right in his line of walking,
And he didn't
And he-
notice it.
and
or
he's
anything.
and like it just felt too coincidental, and like
Right.
typically in crime thrillers like this, like the main character like does something clever and outwits the serial killer, and then he ends up dying or he kills him or something, and like that doesn't necessarily have to happen, but I would have preferred that over something that felt very
And
coincidental.
that makes sense, because what I honestly thought was going to happen in that moment was he was going to get close to Harry Hall, and he was going to just as he was laying down, he was just gonna slam his foot into the ice hard enough that it would kind of like maybe have a loose spot there anyway, but that would make more sense for him to just slam it near at his footing and then kind of like try to crawl away as he drowns. I honestly thought something on the lines of that would have happened. You know, but no.
And I did like the fact that he drowned in the same lake that his mom drowned in.
Yes.
That
was it's like karma for him, but
that kind of like looped back around, and that was really nice. But I don't know, it just didn't give me the satisfaction that I wanted out of it.
Yeah.
I think those few issues and like one other thing that I kind of like bothered me a little bit was sometimes the pacing didn't feel like it was, it kind of felt like it was dragging a little bit in certain spots, and then eventually like picked back up. But there were a couple places where I was just like, I don't feel like anything's happening. Like, I don't doubt that everything that was in it was important. I don't know, just something about some certain scenes were like, they just dragged a little bit.
I don't think
and it wasn't like a major problem. It was just like,
yeah, I didn't really notice that. I mean, there was things that like that.
I feel like it honestly wouldn't be as bad on the second watch, because now you know the importance of certain things, so you'd pick up on a little bit more the second time through. So those scenes that drag you would probably see more importance in them. So it's probably not actually
the scene when those two girls are walking up to the doctor's house, near the semi-beginning of the movie, like the first half, I guess.
Yeah.
That was just like really odd to me. I was like, what is the purpose of that? But then later I understood it, and I was like, okay. So I didn't really have a problem with the pacing. I understand that why you would, but again, it's not like a major issue at all.
Yeah. For me, like, the only really thing I noticed about the pacing was just the fact that I wanted to know who the killer was, like, right then in that moment. But I had to sit there and wait for them to, like, put all the pieces together. And I was just like, when is this going to happen? And but looking back on, like, in the moment, like, I was really enjoying it. I just wanted to know.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, that's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to make you want to know. And the fact that they piece by piece built up who the killer was and gave you all this information helped with that, and they did it really well.
I mean, that makes total sense, because like it is a crime thriller, and that's what it's supposed to do. But like, I really liked how what's the word I'm looking for? Yes. It's a good band. Crap, what's this word I'm looking for? Handled. I really liked how they handled the note that he gets at the beginning of the film. Because he didn't give much thought to it until later, because it didn't happen yet. Yeah. He gave him the note before he'd even committed the crime. Yeah. The first like, because that was the first time. That was the first like kill or whatever. Yeah. He sent that note before it even happened. So Harry was just like, he just kind of shrugged it off. He kept it, but he shrugged it off.
He kept it because he didn't understand it, and he didn't know what it meant, so he just kept it until he figured it out. And then once he started to understand what was happening, he put it in a evidence bag. And also, like, I guess I kind of want to know. I like the way that Matthias kept giving hints before he would do the crime. Like, he called the police station and said that this woman went missing, and they went and found her, and she was still there. Yeah. And then as they left, he went and killed her.
Yeah. It's like, we're looking for a missing person. I am that missing person. I'm not missing. It's like, oh, okay then. Yeah, I really like that.
Personally, if that had been me, if someone said, "We're looking for a missing person," I'd be like, "Who? Nathaniel George?" I'd be like, "Get me out of here now. I don't want to be alone."
I'd be getting my guns out, start like getting swords and stuff. I'd carry around just like 5 killing machine weapons with me, you know.
Yeah, I would. She seemed freaked out by it, but she just thought it as a prank, even though she said her husband wasn't one for pranking.
Yeah. She
for
caught
pulling
him right
pranks.
after they left.
Yeah, and he did seem to not know anything, and at that point I would have been like, I need to get out of here.
Yeah. Well, by then it was too late.
I mean, yeah.
His killer was literally right there after she got off that phone call.
But still, I mean, even when they just said that someone called,
yeah,
I would have been like, I don't want to be alone.
Yeah.
Especially
now after watching this movie.
Yeah. But there's nothing in the movie that says she wasn't like that, because she died 2 minutes after. So it's not like she had time to do anything.
She just stayed in the chicken coop by herself, though. Like, I don't know.
I feel like it's still realistic. Like, the amount of time that passed.
I'm not saying it's not realistic. I'm just saying what I would have done.
I mean, that's fair.
Yeah. I do agree with those 2 flaws that you mentioned earlier. Another, I don't necessarily would say this is a flaw, because it didn't actually happen, but it gave the impression that it was going to be a flaw, was the team that he set up. It kind of set up the cliche, we're a team, we're going to find the killer, and we're going to focus half the movie on this, in this room, with this team.
Oh,
you know?
Yeah.
Like, I'm glad they didn't do that, but when that started happening, I was like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
Like, that's so overdone.
Yeah, with, what was that guy's name?
Magnus?
Yeah, Magnus and Katrine and Harry.
A few other
they
ones.
seen, and a couple other people. You're like, oh yeah, this is going to be like the headquarters. They come back to this whenever they find new information and explain what you just saw to all of their team members. And they'll be like, all right, now that we've explained the movie, let's go and do more movie, and then we'll come back and explain the movie again.
Yeah. I'm glad they didn't do that, and it just kind of made me think of that, so that's why I was kind of like expecting it, but I shouldn't have, because everything before that was so visual. Yeah. It was very show don't tell kind of thing. So I really shouldn't have even given that second thought.
Yeah.
But that was just me, because I have seen that a lot,
yeah.
and it does get on my nerves. It is cliche.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's that.
So Ian, tell me, on a scale of yes to no, what would you rate this movie?
What? I rated a what?
Okay,
so we're going to the rating. Anything comes to mind? Any last thing?
I think I've said all
Think
I can
real
say.
quick.
Yeah, I think I've talked
Alright.
about
Fassbender
everything that I
was
wanted to
real
talk
good.
about.
He did a real good.
Alright, so
Michael Fassbender always does really good.
No.
let's
Did you
do
watch Haywire?
He did good in that movie.
sort of. He did.
As
he
best as
wasn't,
he could.
Yeah.
I mean, the
With what
dialogue
they had to
was...
work with.
Yeah, the dialogue was awful.
Yeah.
Everything was awful about it, except
You can't always blame
Michael
the actor.
Fassbender's
but it's
performance.
100% true.
Okay, so we're gonna start with you. You give an outline of what you thought of the movie, and then give your rating, and then we'll go this way. An outline of like, this is a really good movie. Good this. Had a couple flaws. Blah blah blah. I rate it.
I mean, it basically just said
Give a
everything.
summary. Give a quick summary and your rating.
Recommend it.
I
think it's
really
underrated.
I really enjoyed this film. I think all the acting was well done. I think everything was well done except for that one kid actor who didn't do good. And the other flaw that I mentioned at the end. Overall, I really enjoyed it. I think it kind of leans into the tropes of a crime thriller movie a lot. But I really enjoy those tropes, so I don't really care, and that made me enjoy it even more. So I rate it an 8 out of 10.
It's real good. It's a good movie. No. So, yeah, I enjoyed it. I agree with what you said about, like, it kind of follows some of the tropes of, like, typical crime thrillers, but I feel like it presents them in a unique way. And, like we said, you know, all the performances, most of the performances, 99% of the performances were top-notch. And overall, it's just a good movie, so I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, agree. It's a very good movie. It did follow tropes, but
good.
one thing I do want to mention before we close this out is you always, in crime thrillers, always get those tropes and stuff. But when it really comes down to, it's how the killer is presented and what kind of unique stuff that they do that really makes the movie.
Mm-hmm.
This movie was called The Snowman, and the killer made Snowman around his... I mean, he put a severed head on one snowman,
It
so...
sounds like it could be, like, really cheesy. Like,
Yeah.
When I read the description on the back of the film, I was just like, this could go south real quick.
Yeah.
This sounds like it can be really cheesy. But
Yeah.
they did it in a really well done way.
Yeah. Totally agree. But, like, that's always what I'm looking for, is how the killer... How mysterious is it? You know, what kind of techniques does he use? Equipment, you know, that was... You just use a hacksaw or anything. That's what it really comes down to me with these kind of movies. So, and this did it in a unique way. And it was just an overall good film. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. So all of us gave it an 8 out of 10. It was a really good film. Thank you for watching or listening. And we'll see you in the next Movie Roundtable discussion. Goodbye.